We would like to start today's webinar and the others will join. So welcome to our webinar for Credit Union Month on Cybersecurity and AI. My name is Shana Isaac, General Manager. And our webinar today will be conducted by PromoTech, and the representative will be Mr. Anil Daniel. So a little bit on our presenter for this evening. Anil Daniel is a dynamic business leader and visionary strategist currently serving as the country manager of PromoTech Inc. for St. Lucia and St. Vincent. With extensive experience spanning technology management, operations, leadership, and strategic business development, Anil has been instrumental in driving innovation, growth, and community impact across the Caribbean. He has spent 12 years in telecommunications across the Caribbean region and over 15 years in technology and business operations. He also holds up to Level 3 Network Security Expert certification, is Cisco certified, and has a strong background in pre-sales engineering and solution design. A multi-certified professional with 6 global chartered designations, including ESG, supply chain, and global finance. Anil's leadership reflects a deep commitment to empowering people through technology, education, and sustainable enterprise. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Anil Daniel to the webinar and any other PromoTech colleagues who are on the call. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Daniel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shana. I want to first thank the management team of St. Lucia Teachers Credit Cooperative Limited for collaborating with us on this important webinar. One where I would like to educate, but also my style of presentation is more interactive. So I would love for persons to ask as much questions because education is very vital, especially as we are living in an evolving landscape where cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, along with robotics and virtual machine learning, all these things play a crucial part in the ecosystem of technology. And, speaking with the teachers and the importance of where data is really the new currency, is the new gold that I call it. So I want to thank everyone again, and I do hope that this webinar is one that is informative. I do hope I don't send no one to sleep. I'll try to be as straight to the point, but really not to speak on the technical aspect, but more from a governance standpoint and more to a day-to-day in terms of relativeness of what we do experience as an employee, as a member of the credit union, because we do run businesses, but most members may also have their own businesses. So that is really to see how we could support you guys from PromoTech standpoint. So I think Shana has done the due diligence of giving a short bio of me, so I don't need to go into that details anymore. But what I would want to do is speak on PromoTech and who we are and what drives us to serve our customers and clients. So PromoTech was first established in 1999, so we've been around for 25 years. We started as a small retail store in Barbados, and today we are proud to know that we are across the Caribbean region, which Barbados stands at 26. We recently opened the last 2 years, Guyana and St. Lucia. So we are proud of where we've come from in terms from a roadmap standpoint, standing on the basis of delivering a full-blown solution to businesses. And our business is really into three parts. We do have a retail front, which is where our customers come in to interact. We do have a B2B front where we deal with corporate, government, hospitality, the different vectors. And we do have a technical support service depot where we service laptops, phones. We do full-blown installations of cabling, cybersecurity penetration testing, full managed services end to end. So it's really to give you context that we do everything, beyond the measure. Okay, we have over 400 corporate accounts from a B2B standpoint. We serve over 10,000 consumers across the region, and we are trusted with 40 authorized business partners, which is supply chain, brands, reputable brands across the world. And we are highly compliant as it relates to keeping up with technology, keeping up with certification, ISO standard 7,000, 9,000. And it's our duty, and I say that with such passion, that whatever we provide to our customer, we support it fully and we educate, which is, I think, the most integral part of the entire sales journey for us, is how can we give the customer a piece of information, a piece of knowledge sharing that they could live with, that they could take back to their institutions, take back to their homes, and replicate that information into value-added service to themselves. Okay. Shana, if there's any questions in the chat, feel free to let me know, and then I could answer as well as possible. So I do have, not sure, but we're gonna have some giveaways, which Shana will be the one to advise when those giveaways and who is the winner. But just for interactive purposes, does anyone in the on the webinar knows the origin of where cyber came from, the wood? You could put it in the chat and become more interactive there. Let's see who's the lucky person first. So who can tell me where the word cyber originated from? Hello? You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can. I guess nobody knows.
Okay, all right.
I
So,
don't
well, it was just to get persons up and running, but the word cyber originated from Greek. It's a Greek word for the word we call kybernetis, meaning it's a stemman or governor or someone who guides, right? And there are a lot of different definitions of cybersecurity on the web, if you Google. But for me, cybersecurity is the discipline concerned with the protection of computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks from malicious attacks or unauthorized actions. Okay. What most persons don't know is cybersecurity have been around for more than 50 years. So if we look at the start date, the start date would, the first origination of cybersecurity would have started in 1970, right? Which was the emergence of the computer security. And that's where, information became more frequent over the internet. Now, for someone that is paying attention on the presentation tonight, there is an error in this slide. Can someone tell me where the error is? You could just put it in the chat where you identify the error. Can anyone in the chat put where they identify the error in there?
No, I'm looking for it myself.
Looking for it. Okay.
Somebody said creating.
Someone said creating. Okay. That's one. That's very good. That person, very good observation.
Somebody else said freaks.
That's a very good observation as well. And there is one more. Let's see who gets the last one.
Somebody said diptychs.
Which one?
Diptychs.
Well, that's not the one I was looking for, but okay. It's closer to the end. If you look at it carefully, it's closer to the end of the key takeaways. If you look at to the end of the key takeaways, you'll see it. Okay, I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. Where AI is now weaponized, that line has more than one error.
Yeah, somebody have it. SCAE.
All right, correct.
Yeah, somebody has it.
Okay. So the purpose of this is this webinar will really focus on the human element of error. And as much as the human element in some cases may be the strongest link, when it comes to cybersecurity, it is the most weakest link in any organization. And part of this exercise is really for members is to be more assertive as to a lot of things. Assertive as to the information that comes through every day. Assertive as to the emails that we open. Assertive to as to where do we open our phones? Where do we go on online? The Wi-Fi's that we go on. The public domains, the public spaces. You know, where do we leave information that is crucial, that is lying around in the organization? The papers that need to be shredded. So the human element is the greatest and weakest link in any organization. And this webinar is allowing us to understand why. And how can we create preventive measures to ensure that members, employees are more aware of how to protect systems, how to protect the organizations from ransomware, how to be spokespersons in the organization, that if something do happen, and I do hope that the credit union does have a open door policy where members can speak very anonymously, and a hotline where they can speak in a sense of ambiguity as well. Because that's important, that things do happen in organizations where either persons are afraid to disclose, or where persons may be friends to that person, or where persons may individually be the ones having bad habits that have trickled down into becoming historic issues. So this webinar is really for us to see the implications of we, and I say we because when we do not do the right things, even the smallest, slightest mistake will cause a ripple effect that may cause our organizations a significant amount of financial implication, right? So just to give you a understanding, so as of now, 2025, cybercrime is expected to cost globally $10.5 trillion a year. That's almost 20 million every minute. And why that's the case is because now we are seeing a rampant acceleration of attacks happening both via the human element and both via the negligence of business owners and corporations of not taking a resilient approach to security and data protection, right? And now we are seeing the type of attacks that's happening to organizations are becoming very premeditated, and cyber criminals are now more taking a different approach to how they infiltrate security systems. One of these being they are no longer attacking systems. They are now attacking people. They are attacking habits. They are understanding the behavioral pattern of employees and members to know what they do on a frequent basis. And that is how they are attacking the information. That is how they are finding loopholes, or what we call backholes, into the network. Because we are now looking at people. That's how they are thinking, not systems. Because you could have the greatest systems, you could have the greatest processes, you could have the greatest framework around protecting employee data, or around trying to align with the GDPR, or around trying to align with the NIST framework. Yes, this is all great. But if your people, if they are not aware, if they are not trained, if they are not capable of identifying patterns or communicating effectively to stop things from happening, that is where the cyber criminals are now penetrating. 68% of data breaches are caused by human element, stolen credentials, right? Today, we are so big on social media. Sometimes we use the same password across all platforms, right? Sometimes we don't have multi-factor authentication, MFAs, on our phones. Sometimes we save our passwords automatically on a lot of sites. So we are exposing ourselves more and more to the risk of being hacked, right? When we look at the amount of organizations that say they were impacted by successful cyber attacks, and that could be either they were attacked via ransomware, which means that now they are prone to pay, or they were attacked by a backdoor attack like a DNS, a DOS attack, or something like phishing attack, where we will dive deeper into the webinar where it shows how frequent phishing attacks do take place in organizations. So some attacks may not have financial repercussions, but what it allows is the exposure to vulnerabilities. And if a hacker is sitting in your network, which could be sometimes months, sometimes a year, just watching patterns, just sitting silently dormant, ready to do a massive infiltration. So we look at where most of the data breaches has happened worldwide. Some of the big ones that probably would have made a lot of headline across the media. Facebook was a big one in 2019. A lot of customers' credentials and also information was stolen from Facebook. Um, and information, like I said, is gold. And so much of that information was on the on the dark web, sorry, as well. T-Mobile had another one. Um, so it just shows that, it is not one size fits all. There are different industries. All industries are exposed to cyber attacks. And where it normally happens more, prevalently is in the healthcare and financial services. And that's two big sectors where, more and more, the reports are coming out showing, those two sectors are really being attacked and systematically and strategically being attacked due to the type of information that is stored, a lot of financial information, a lot of personal data information, even the healthcare, have done so much from a HIPAA standpoint to try to ensure everything is compliant, but they are still finding ways with so much automation happening, with machine learning, and more these things are exposing more loopholes or backdoors. So, Sean, I think we will do a prize for this one. This would be 15%. This would be something that we will give. That's from me. We'll do a 15% voucher for anyone that tells me, and that's the first person that drops it in the chat. What
Hold on,
percent?
Anil.
Yeah,
Hold on. Can we do the prices at the end?
that's fine, but just take a tally of it though.
Yeah, and we will do a raise of hands. So when you finish the
Okay.
presentation, we'll do it. We'll do questions, and then we
Okay.
could.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. All right. So just in the chat, what percentage of human error causes cyber attacks to organization? It could take a while, I guess. What percentage? Okay, I'm seeing 60% coming in. Okay. 68, 81%. Okay. All right, we'll take two more in there, 70. Okay. All right. I saw two. Okay, so we can stop here. So both Anil Larcher and Crystal's Senval, that's if I pronounce it right, did get it correct. It's 95% of all successful cyber attack is caused by human error. Okay, great stuff. So more and more this stresses on the importance of people, right? And how can we ensure we eliminate that factor? So most of us are very, we have seen this before. I do hope most of persons on the webinar did not click something like this in the past. And it's fine if you have done it. I mean, more and more we are getting wiser. But there are so many creative ways in which, hackers, infiltrate. There are so many creative ways how they will create the suspense of us, the user, to click or to be curious to see, okay, what happens. During COVID had so many of them because now persons were home, most businesses were closed. So persons had more time on the internet. And and like they say, idle hands become a devil's workshop. So most persons were just on the internet doing multiple things. So we saw a spike in terms of cyber attacks, ransomware during COVID. And because more and more persons were working from not a private network, but from their public network. A network from your modem to your home, you're on internet. There's no firewalls, there's no safety measures. So you're just using the internet. Okay, so why attacks occur? Because one, our passwords are too easy to remember. Now, there is a saying that your passwords need to be 18 characters long and and more. But what we have seen with the 18 characters long is that persons tend to reach to a point where they forget the passwords. They tend to get into the point of, this is frustrating. I always have to forget my password. So we've seen that the behavior of the 18 characters has actually created more problems and more loopholes for organizations. So what we always advise, one, you don't use a password that's tied to your birthday, or tied to a family member, tied to some random thing that someone could think of. Your password needs to be, very high def, which I call, so in numbers, letters, some asterisks or whatever you choose to put there. But it needs to be very difficult to solve, right? And there are a lot of applications that you could do now to really stress test your password, across different platforms. A lot of users go on torrent files, downloading movies, downloading games, downloading even patch files, even free files as well, APKs. A lot of users, do those things. So more and more those files are actually coming already with different types of attachments to them. All right. A lot of users do turn off the updates on the laptops, which is very wrong, right? Whilst I understand that, the pop-ups keep happening all the time, it's very important to keep your updates, and there's a reason for doing this, right? So APK files are normally free files that you can get, files that don't require any level of authentication. So for example, sorry?
Anil, we have a
Yeah.
question. I don't want to forget. What is APKS?
Yeah, that's what I'm answering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm watching it. Yes. So yes. So someone did so just to give more examples, so it's APK is a file that you could download for free, a file that doesn't allow for any form of authentication for download, a file that you can get a free version of, and a file that comes with really one patch management, or lack of a better word, the firmware, once you update the firmware, then you'll ask you to pay. So for example, WhatsApp, before you could have downloaded WhatsApp easily on from an Android phone. And then you didn't have to go through the Play Store to download WhatsApp. So whilst this was quicker access, what happened is that the Android firmware, the version firmware was outdated. It was not the latest firmware. And for you to have gotten the latest WhatsApp, you would have to automatically go to the Play Store because you'll not be able to download that APK. Now, there are a lot of APKs as well for games, for those who like playing games on phones. All of those are APKs. But the thing about APKs are a lot of the application that you download through APKs, some of them have a backdoor, which a lot of cyber criminals actually create those applications to have a backdoor access to your private network. Now, there are a lot of companies that normally do something called BYOD, bring your own device. And that is really at the time where organizations were seeing how can we create a hybrid structure to, one, allow users to use their own devices to be part of the private network. And what we've seen is with the bring your own devices, most companies don't have a multi-authentication factor where it allows the user to use a code or verification. Most of them is really exposed. So an employee can use their personal device for work phone, but there's no separation. So what happens is the businesses would have an email of the work, an email of the personal, right? The employee would do the day-to-day work, but when they get home, they use it for personal, but there's no separation. What that means is because there's not MFAs on your phone, or there is no form of defense, security defense, or antivirus, or even VPN access that could tunnel whenever you try to access work stuff, that it allows you to use the password. What companies have seen is that more and more persons will infiltrate in the personal applications, the games, APK files, Gmails, even the sites that you've gone on your personal, as a personal thing, would now trickle down to giving access to the company data, because now your emails are on there on your phone. So more and more those have been something organizations are becoming more cautious about. All right, if we are allowing employees to use their phones, how can we protect the organization data, the information? And so a lot of companies, which, we sell those applications as well, like where you could actually provide a separation, two profiles on the phone, or two public space, you may call it, right? Other things that employees fail to do, they fail to change the password frequently. They don't exercise caution when opening links or attachments that come in via email. We did an exercise earlier where you guys were identifying the errors. That is very important in phishing attacks because they are now becoming so creative, the criminals, cyber criminals. The emails actually have next to probably 0.1% of error. It looks so authentic, so real that you'd think it's from a authentic site or company. That's how good they have become. So the errors, the margin of errors has become less because they have been practicing and perfecting this type of phishing attacks. Updating softwares and systems, organizations, especially, I would say for senior teachers, that needs to be something that is on schedule, right? And it needs to be part of the working bylaws or make it so constitutionalized that employees, if they don't update the software or update the systems when pushed by IT, then they will be penalized. Because that should be part of an important KPI for organizations is are your members, are your employees doing the right thing, right? And then ways to prevent, which we spoke of MFAs, we spoke on being more cautious about emails, ensuring that we secure devices and data working remotely, report any unusual activity or security incidents. I think that's is a very important thing. Um, even allowing employees to speak on things. I mean, what is through whistleblowing policy that you have? So there is a level of confidentiality and privacy, but allow persons to see, okay, if an error like this happens, it doesn't just affect me, it affects the organization, right? So there needs to have an organization mentality of how do we protect the place we work, how do we protect our fellow colleagues. Okay, let me see. So just some more to just talk on why our attacks were successful. So hackers take like 4 minutes to get into your network. 4 minutes. But 99 days for businesses to recover what they have lost, right? 63% of passwords are weak. 63% of passwords are persons who are repeatedly using the same passwords in recycle mode. So if I did accident 123. After 40 days, I may put stoplight 1234 and then go back to accident 123. So a lot of employees, a lot of users we are seeing are doing the same exact thing. So there is no creativity in terms of the passwords, right? 53% of the users accidentally share information. That happens a lot in organizations. So hey, especially if it's a case like customer facing transactional wise or on a cashier or even things of access control, a lot of employees sometimes do give another colleague their code or password. Hey, just use that by saying, oh, I forgot my password, I forgot my password. Oh, no, just use my stuff. Where's my code? That is wrong. That is a practice that should be eliminated from the start, right? But it still happens because we know a friend, a colleague, we cool buddies. Nothing will happen. You could use my password. Okay. So why people make mistakes at work? It's a lot. There's a lot of reasons. One of them is being burnt out. So more and more we are seeing in organizations, employees are speaking up of the hours they are working, the amount of tasks they have to do throughout the day. So we are seeing a high amount of errors being done because employees are burnt out, right? We are seeing a high influx because employees are not taking the time. They are rushing to do everything. They are not taking the time to spot check, even writing emails, even when opening emails. They are not doing the due diligence. We are seeing a high number of employees who are saying they are tired. So there is a cognitive decline because they are tired, their brain is not working. And then you have a full swing of stress and distracted. Some may be employees coming to the workplace with stress matters outside the workplace. Then you are getting those distracted because they are multitasking. So they are doing multiple things at the same time, and that creates a high level of distraction, which creates a high level of errors, right? And when we say why employees send emails to the wrong persons, I was under pressure to send emails quickly. So then we see that type of cultural dysfunction where things need to happen now. So persons really have little time to really do the due diligence of verifying before sending, right? Wasn't paying attention is another one. So we are saying these are the reasons why employees are having issues, why employees are becoming the weakest link, why cyber criminals are preying on employees, preying on users, right? And it's like I say, it's behavioral patterns. That's a very good one, Colin. Very good. Um, Definitely, and that's very important. So a lot of organizations are trying to do that role as well, where employees get a time to just reset, um, take a break, walk around, have, 10 to 15 minutes, just allow you to just burn out the exhaust and then start back. Right. And what organizations are seeing with that role as well is that employees are becoming more productive, more high performing employees. And the culture is now being built upon that quality over quantity. It's a more qualitative approach. Okay. Um, Overall, there are different types of businesses, right? But if you look at the chart where most serious attacks vectors are coming from, you're seeing a high percentage of carelessness and uninformed employees. And if organizations can correct this by providing training like this, right? By providing certification to the IT professionals who are looking after the security posture of the organization, then that percentage will gradually go down. So when we think of which type of employee, the data shows is really across the organization. Because now we are seeing more management and even board level becoming more aware of those type of issues. So at one time, cybersecurity was just a discussion, a conversation, more operationally. Now, cybersecurity has become, a boardroom discussion where the board is now taking, a very different approach to how can we put more into security. And a lot of the challenges IT professionals have had is, oh, we never have a budget. We don't have budget, we don't have the capex to do projects where we could help build on the security infrastructure or help, enhance the topology. We don't. A lot of IT persons keep saying the same cry. So now more organizations are saying, okay, IT is really an important part of the organization. In some organization is the most important part of the organization. Because if your IT backbone is strengthened and you're putting the right, infrastructure, the right elements like proper firewalls, um, proper routers, proper switches, ensuring that there's proper multi-authentications across, ensuring that there's proper data encryption, then everything else is protected to the degree where it is not a case where there is so much exposure, but there is multi-layer protection. And more it becomes, like I said, a boardroom discussion. And we see a high percentage of nurses, especially from like I said, the healthcare sector has been, the place where, cyber criminals have been targeting for the past few decades. And we continue to see higher. And the reason for that is a lot of the appliances, a lot of the infrastructure at the hospital are now very automated. A lot of them are coming with a lot of patch management, a lot of firmware updates. So it's not a case where, in the past years, where things were more manual, where things had to be done a certain way, or the equipment was an older equipment, more analog, more, antiquated. Now everything that is in the healthcare is now being automated or centralized or has some level of cloud adaptation, adoption to it, meaning things are stored. And then the nurses are using a lot of small devices, gadgets, which are now, creating the problem of how the information is taken. And I think from a credit union standpoint, that is something that needs to look into even more. Is the way the processes we have, is it protecting customer information from the onset of orientation, from the second layer of onboarding that new customer in, to the place where we are handing over an account or we're giving a card or PIN? Are we doing the due diligence to ensure that there are multi-layer protection for members of the credit union and that customers feel safe knowing that the information is protected, the account information, the finances are protected? So that is a discussion that will really go, more in depth. Why don't small business pay attention to cybersecurity until it's too late? Because most small businesses say that because I am small, I don't need to worry about cybersecurity. I'm not a multinational business. I don't make millions of dollars every year. So I don't need a security. To be honest, that's not important. So a lot of small businesses say that. Very limited resources in small businesses. Most of them don't have an on-site IT professional who looks after the network 24/7, 365 days a year. So more and more, the responsiveness or the incident response to dealing with an situation is longer, and that mitigation is actually creating a bottleneck for small businesses. And the misperception that cybersecurity only targets large corporations, which is wrong. What we have seen in small businesses, 60% of attacks in the past 5 years has actually come from small businesses. The ones who don't invest in switching, proper POS system, the ones that has very flat networks, no IT professional, no license, antivirus licenses. That's why we're seeing a high influx targeted to small, medium businesses. So a lot we've seen in terms of cybersecurity trends. So most of us here on this webinar knows about artificial intelligence, AI, which is now, is a trending topic, especially using things like even ChatGPT and all the other AI tools, Microsoft Dynamics and Business Essentials and all these things. All this has a high level of artificial intelligence, machine learning, Salesforce, all these applications. You have a lot of POS. A lot of softwares are now starting to automate a lot of the processes, a lot of how information is replicated, how information is read, how information is stored, how is information distributed, how information is what level of redundancy. So we are seeing more trends. A lot of persons are going into the cloud thinking it's safer. We've seen a high influx of IoTs. So your IoTs are like your WhatsApp, your Twitter, your Instagram. All these things are IoTs, which really sits on the actual internet, right? And then you've seen ransomware, more and more new ransomware. Security cameras is a very good one, Colin. Correct. Because the reason for security cameras is there's few things I want to touch on security cameras. So a lot of persons buy a security camera that does not have a strong security fabric. When I mean security fabric is They're buying cheaper cameras online because one, is affordable. Two, they'll put it up. Probably once it has a nice night vision, clarity, they buy it. Amazon, eBay. But those brands are not protected. They don't follow ISO standards. So what happens is when you put in your cameras are normally either default, correct? Your logins normally tied to your emails, which is quicker to set up, but also exposes you. And then your footage where it stores, you're not aware where it stores. So that's another aspect. So cameras is one of the easiest ways in which hackers could actually target your entire home system or trickle down to getting your information, especially the type of cameras you're buying, right? And even at PromoTech, the cameras we sell, we ensure we sell cameras that comes under heavy ISO standards, cameras that is compliant, that has a built-in risk management system, that has dual capabilities both online and as well on premise, and cameras that has authentication factors as well, which definitely will protect you. We are seeing a high one in terms of supply chain security. So a lot of organizations deal with third party vendors. The question that you have to ask is, are your third-party vendors, are they also compliant from a cybersecurity standpoint? What are they doing to protect their systems? Because the attack doesn't have to come from you. The attack can come from actually a third-party vendor, which then, gets your information as a customer on their end, which also can be a loophole to your network. So that is something from an audit standpoint, even from a verification standpoint, the organizations, even credit unions need to ask, the people that we are doing business with, are they secure? Are they doing the right measures to mitigate? Are they neutralizing, the risk, the vulnerabilities? What are the risk appetite? Or the risk tolerance, how high it is. So those are the questions, credit unions can ask the vendors or even the business partners that they deal with is, what do you have on your side of the fence to protect us as also a client of yours, to protect our members, right? So that's something that, need to look into. And then incident response is, if we had to, the question I was asked is, if you have to attack the network of a credit union today, how sure of you that the network is strong? That is the question that, organizations have to ask themselves. Where would the attack come from? Would it come from our members, our employees? Would it come from third-party vendors? Would it come from knowing that we don't have the best equipment at our credit union to protect us from a cyber attack? Our members trained and aware to know how to look for the subtle, messaging, the behaviors, or just what we call the freebies that they like to send to employees. Are they aware of how to handle those things, or what not to click on? Are there proper web filtering measures in the organization? Are employees able to go on Facebook and all the other apps whilst on a company private network? Are there sites that the company network is blocking employees from using? So those are the type of questions that you need to really go down into the belly of the whale to understand. Are we asking all the right questions? Or are we looking in all the right places? So we look at the Caribbean, from a Caribbean landscape. And we look at, okay, the countries where, cyber attacks have been, very dominant in the past years. And, could see from the Latin America, the Cala region, that more and more you're saying that it's increasing. Now, whilst, yes, in the basin where St. Lucia is, which is not as high as other countries, it doesn't mean that we are safe, and it doesn't mean that we are out of the zone. It just tells us now that we need to ensure that we are not exposed. And as a country, we ensure that the cybersecurity becomes a lifestyle, it becomes a mandated thing that every organization and a lifestyle for every employee to live by. Is protecting data. Okay. So when we look at the resilience from a leadership issue standpoint, financial services remain a top target heading into 2025. So far, over 5,600 ransomware attack disclosed from last year. That number should be high now. The average cost of data breach is 4.8 million. Sorry. Caribbean region faces over 2,500 in cyber attacks per week. Whilst it may not be a major scale of high ransomware, millions of dollars, but it's still happening. It's not a case where it's not. It's happening, right? And then when you look at the cybersecurity spend in financial services projected to reach 28.6 billion in 2025. So insurance companies, financial services, banking, credit unions are taking a very aggressive approach, which is very commendable for them, that we are doing everything in our power, they are saying, to protect our people, protecting our organization, protecting the organization from reputational damage, and ensuring that, cybersecurity is now discussion from the boardroom going down. So there's a very high level of tone at the top from a governance standpoint, and it's now even more of a discussion where boards, shareholders, even multiple stakeholders are now ensuring what are we doing as relates to cyber resilience, right? So more and more you find the capitalization in terms of the budgeting, the money put into organizational security has increased. And that's the way we can go as a Caribbean region. As a country like St. Lucia, we need to focus on putting the foundation from the start. Like they always say, prevention is better than cure. So that's important. And then more and more now, we're seeing more incorporation of cyber insurances for organizations, being an insurance component now, especially for organizations heavily invested in cybersecurity. Okay. So when we look at the ransomware landscape, we are seeing more and more of the ransomware is going down. We are also seeing more organizations are forward thinking. So then that is reducing the root cause of employee or people negligence. And so that is important. And we are seeing over 60% of ransomware attacks are caused by employees as well. 60%. That's a very high number. And it just takes one error to destroy entire organization name. And that's something takes years to rebuild confidence in stakeholders, in consumer, to believe in the organization who have been under a cyber attack. Okay, I know I'm looking at the time, but I'm looking at where the region is, just to give you context as to, cyber attack distribution by sector. So you're seeing, where financial services 13%, but you're seeing the public sector 21%. Telecoms and IT, which I've spent, 12 years of my professional career in telecommunications. And I could tell you a lot of the IT companies, this is not even a discussion. This is a mandate. It's very mandatory now that, from an infrastructure, from a topology standpoint, from a people development, people awareness training, telcos enforcing that whatever we are doing, we need to protect the customer data. So even in energy as well, with smart homes and renewable energy and solar energy and all these things are happening now from the energy sector, more and more companies are realizing with the advancement of technology comes the advancement of cyber attacks. So it's a coin flip, to be honest, on which side you want to be as an organization. Just to give you how a network would look like, most networks would be like that. A very interconnection between your server room. From your server room, you probably have a fiber connection coming from either digital or flow. That goes into your demarcation switch, which will sit in your patch panel. From your patch panel, everything will now be connected via Ethernet cables, which will be connected via data points. Each laptop, each PC, each server will sit on a data point that goes back into your demarcation switch. Your switch then is connected to a firewall. Then on your modem as well, you'll put another authentication factor in your modem. Organization like the credit union would have a static IP, and then probably have two internet connections, or probably three internet connections, but let's say for two for now, one from digital, one from flow. So that'll give you the level of redundancy, failover, load balancing. There's a lot of purpose why they do that, but it's ensure that there's no service disruption. And then you have outside your network, you have smartphones, especially if the credit union is on a group plan for employees, a closed user group, you need data plans on there. And then you have laptops, which your employees can go home now with the laptops, which works from their home as well remotely. If you have work from home, probably 1 day a week for employees, then all these things would work. Okay. When you look at bulk of where the network attacks happen is on your browser, right? Browser. So, and that's why it's important to ensure that you have antiviruses, that you have your updates on, and then you have all the applications that the company would install on the laptop to protect, especially VPN and all these things as well. All right. Let me see. Just a few ideas of brands that which I would consider top brands that organizations should invest in. One, because they are heavily scrutinized from a security standpoint. They are heavily building platforms, hardware, services, even care support that deals with cybersecurity focus. And then even training as well, which PromoTech as well provide and are partners with those brands as well. So, I mean, if there is any consultation, we give free consultation at PromoTech for all businesses. We do the first consultation free of charge. Just that, for small businesses or even large enterprise organizations who may need, feedback of what we call a second opinion we are more than happy to do that and extend that to any business owner organizations. So we pride ourselves on that. And then to my last slide, I hope I did very well. I know I'm 2 minutes over, but it's really questions and answers now. But what I would say is it takes 20 years to build a reputation, and it takes few minutes of a cyber incident to ruin it. And that is very powerful, and that should be something that needs to be at the back of our minds. You know, building a reputation like a credit union, like Solutions Teachers, that's decades. So it is their duty, it's everyone's duty to protect that and ensure that, you know, we treat the business like it's ours and that we make the necessaries to ensure that we live, breathe, practice, educate ourselves. It doesn't have to be always a training by the company, but self-training, self-teaching. You know, online has so many free education. Just listen, you know, Google, search it. But to leave my last words, I do hope that this presentation provided some level of context. There's so much more I could have spoken on tonight, but understanding the time and understanding, you know, the importance of not going too technical, but focusing on the principles of what needs to be heard. I do want to thank everyone for joining and for giving us an opportunity at PromoTech to be part of this great webinar this evening and for participating by providing the awareness to you guys. So I want to say thank you as a country manager and on behalf of my team at PromoTech, who are always here to support and always here to give our best efforts. So